Do not invest in these Section 8 houses. Section 8 can either be the most reliable passive income stream you'll ever have in your life, or it'll be the most painful mistake you'll ever make. Most new investors completely mess this up because they buy the wrong types of houses in the wrong neighborhoods from the wrong people. And if you stay until the end, I'll show you the exact strategy one of my students used in order to buy a $90,000 property and rent it for $1,400 while avoiding these mistakes. Let's talk about the biggest red flags to avoid. Number one is multifamily homes with shared utilities. Now it sounds like a good deal, right? More tenants equals more cash flow, but that is completely wrong. Here is what usually happens. One issue with the water heater or electrical panel. Guess what? Every single one of the tenants will complain. Let's say that Jimmy clogs his toilet and backs up the main sewer line. Guess what? That main sewer line is attached to Jimmy, Jimmy 2, Jimmy 3, and Jimmy 4, meaning all 4 tenants are going to complain. All 4 tenants are also going to call the local housing authority and say, hey, my landlord is not providing my basic needs of plumbing. And guess what? You're going to have to get each property re-inspected by Section 8 as well. So you'll be forced into multiple re-inspections just to pass the HUD standards and keep getting your monthly checks. Tenants will also start to point fingers at each other over utility use, and it becomes your problem as a landlord. For example, let's say that there is only 2 water tanks for the 4 different tenants. Well, guess what? If Jimmy 1 and Jimmy 2 shower at the same time, Jimmy 3 and Jimmy 4 are going to complain that suddenly there's no hot water in their entire unit. So again, they are going to complain to who? To the landlord about this. Or they're going to complain about each other, fights will break out, and you're going to get several noise complaints and cops called to the property. So you want to stick to setups where each unit has its own set of utilities, own furnaces, own water heaters, etc. Yes, it'll probably cost more money, but it'll save you so much management headache. Number 2, avoid rough neighborhoods with visible neglect. So here is my personal litmus test, like I call it. If I see more than one of these on the same block, I'm out of there. I'm immediately just looking over at a different street. Number 1 is broken windows / boarded up windows, kind of the same thing. Number 2, graffiti. And I mean graffiti everywhere. Number 3 is rusted out cars on they're straight up their front lawns or just abandoned on the street. Number 4 is garbage piling, whether it be on the street, in front of the homes, spare tires everywhere, etc. And I think a lot of people just instinctively know a bad area when they see it. You can't outmanage a bad neighborhood. It's just not possible. So these areas come with pretty frequent tenant turnover because nobody wants to stay there or else they're going to get stabbed. Pretty low inspection scores. So for those that don't know, HUD inspections usually go from a scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10. It usually scores pretty low. And generally just higher crime risk, which means higher insurance premiums as well. So even if the rent looks good on paper, the long-term cost is going to be higher. And at the end of the day, nobody's going to want to live in an area where they are at risk of their lives being lost. Number 3 is buying from wholesalers. I do not like wholesalers at all. Wholesalers make their money on you, not on the deal. So here is why dealing with them just overall is just dangerous. Number 1 is most skip any type of inspection. In fact, most wholesalers that I've experienced, they've never even been to the property before. They have no idea the condition. All they've been doing is cold calling, lowballing, and then giving things to you. That's it. So it is up to you to do your basic tours, home inspections, etc. And a lot of the time, wholesalers don't even like dealing with realtors. Number 2 is that they inflate prices to take their cut. I mean, if they lowball Jimmy's grandfather to buy the family home for $80,000 when it's probably worth $120,000, they're gonna sell it to you, the buyer, for $110,000. Because guess what? They're gonna go, oh, you're getting $10,000 off, $10,000 below market value. When in reality, they're taking $20,000 of it. When instead, you could have just contacted Jimmy's grandfather directly and gotten it for $80,000. Now, yes, would you have not found the deal normally? Sure, but the other points still remain. They skip inspections, and this next one, they hide problems or give kind of half-truths in order to rush you into signing. Wholesalers are middlemen. They add zero value unless you personally know and trust them. And even if you know and trust them, double check your numbers with your own spreadsheets and team regardless. In general, I just don't deal with them. I've talked a lot of crap, but before I talk about what actually makes a solid Section 8 property, I wanted to mention I created a free school community with over 800 investors at this point, where I teach these exact strategies and how to avoid these costly mistakes like I did. I host a free masterclass every single Friday where I share the exact same system I use to build my portfolio, and I even give away free resources that I honestly usually only give to my mentorship students. Click the link in the description to get access. Now let's flip it. Here's the exact criteria I follow and have used to scale up to $30,000 a month in rent. So the first thing that makes an ideal Section 8 property is single family homes or multis with separate meters. Here's why it works. Number one, lower tenant conflict. Every single person has their own lot, has their own bathrooms, bedrooms, parking spots. Nobody's going to be fighting over everything. If there is by any chance your neighbor hearing you, guess what? It's probably justified because they're like 50 feet away behind two separate brick walls. It is also just easier to pass inspections. You don't have to look for 3 of everything, right? You don't have to look at triple the number of bedrooms, triple the number of working windows, triple the number of hot water heaters. It is a lot easier to just pass them one by one. And in addition to that, maintenance is always isolated. One repair doesn't trigger your house down the street to lose their inspection as well. If one water heater breaks, then you only have to fix one water heater and deal with one angry mom. That's it. I personally am happy to take the 2 to 3% lower ROIs and in return get 50% less of the management headache. Plus, at the end of the day, it might not be any less ROI if you are putting more money towards vacancies and repairs. Every property I own fits this model. So it's predictable, and predictability and being able to be predictable is what makes passive income actually passive and not just some fancy buzzword. Second thing that makes a good property is C-class neighborhoods that are actually working class areas and not just filled with pretty high violent crime. We're basically just looking for clean streets, lawns being cut, no visible signs of violence or vandalism, and we also use something like Spot Crime, which is an online crime checker, and we make sure that there's no violent crime on the same street. And generally, we're just looking for, we tend to see older homes, that's very true, but they're being taken care of, right? The cars aren't literally rusted from being abandoned. There's not broken windows, there's not graffiti on the sides of homes. And a little litmus test that I like to use is if you feel safe jogging there at night, it's probably good enough for your tenants and as your investment. Third thing, work with professional and licensed contractors only. So you want to use licensed realtors for both buying and selling a property. And if you don't use a licensed realtor, at least don't use a wholesaler. Deal directly with the buyer or seller yourself and use real estate lawyers to write up the contracts. And also have your own inspectors. Don't just pick the one that they recommend, whether it be the seller, seller's agent, wholesaler, etc. You always want to make sure you're picking your own contractors and title companies so that they can represent you with their best interests and there's not some type of weird bias going on. I see a lot of people try to get into this independently and then they end up just contacting the listing agent on a fancy Zillow listing they see and trying to work out a deal directly with the listing agent and the seller when they themselves aren't represented. What a lot of times happens is the listing agent will go, "Oh wow, you don't have an agent? How about I represent both of you? I'll cut you guys a deal." In reality, they are already having a conflict of interest because they want to get the best deal for their seller. They are not going to care about your wants or needs. Now let's move on to how we actually find these properties. And hint, hint, it's just the MLS. Every single property in our $1.9 million portfolio was found on the MLS. And we love it because you have full transparency. You can see comps, days on market, seller disclosures. If the seller found mold, they'll disclose it. If they have lead paint, they'll disclose it. You can also work with realtors, right? So not Facebook flippers or wholesalers. And in addition, your offers go through an actual formal system, so there's no sketchy side deals going on or missing paperwork on either side. Now, yes, that can still happen, but then you have realtors to take care of it. So here's a real story about a student in Detroit that I have. They bought the home for $84,000. It was on the MLS. They put about $5,000 in renovations, so their total all in is $89,000. Almost all of it was financed. And their monthly rent through Section 8 is $1,400. That is a gross yield of over 18%. And that was from a public listing. The key is knowing what to look for and moving fast with clean offers. A big blocker for a lot of newbie investors is this fear of endless repairs. A lot of people say, oh, I don't want to buy a money pit, right? Oh, if I buy it, then I'm gonna have to put in 20K in rehab every single year. And you're right to be cautious, but wrong to avoid the game entirely. So here's how we lower the risk in every single deal. Number one, get a home warranty paid by the seller. So this is non-negotiable for us. We always ask the seller to cover the cost of a 1-year home warranty during negotiations. And it's usually around $400 on the super low end, but usually ends up being $800 because we choose like the premium options. And it gives you peace of mind from day one. So we'll typically ask for the highest premium plan in the area, and it's 80% chance that they agree to it. And here's why it matters. If the HVAC fails 2 months into you owning the home, you're covered. They're either going to repair the HVAC or replace it and cover at least to what their maximum allocation is, which is usually a few $1,000s. If the water heater leaks, you file a claim. That's about it. If an appliance stops working, you call, pay a small service fee, and it gets handled. So it protects you from the big stuff while you're still getting the cash flowing. And by the way, you don't even pay the service fee because we write into our contracts that the tenant has to pay for any service fees from any work orders they submit. And remember, most sellers agree to it because it's a small ask on your side as a buyer. It's like $800. We also always ask for inspections. And we don't even skip these on turnkey homes either. So we always recommend a standard home inspection, but with 2 extra tools that most rookie investors overlook. So number 1 is the thermal camera. It helps detect water loss. It helps detect heat loss. So that basically means it detects water and cold spots. So if water is detected, then they can mark it in the inspection report and have a plumber go take a look. The plumber can then give a quote for any remediation and even potentially discover hidden mold. And the second addition we ask for is a sewer cam. So you want to check the condition of the main sewer line, which can cost thousands if damaged. And when dealing with sewer, a lot of the time it's like an all or nothing type of deal. So it'll be either $0 and not an issue, or it'll be $5,000 and you have to repair everything. So these 2 extra additions to a home inspection will catch issues that you just can't see regularly. And here is kind of the golden rule that we follow. If the inspector finds anything major, we immediately extend the inspection period using our contract contingency, bring in licensed contractors for each issue to identify and give quotes, and then renegotiate the purchase price or walk away if the numbers simply don't work anymore. Because our goal at the end of the day is 15% ROI. Inspections are there to protect your capital. You're not just buying a house, you're buying a business. And businesses run on good due diligence. And the third thing is that we always budget for repairs. I personally set aside about $150 to $200 a month into my property reserves. That way, when something breaks, it's not an emergency, it's just maintenance at that point that I'm expecting. Real estate works when you're thinking about it long term, and I am definitely thinking about it long term by putting aside 15% of the gross rent. And newsflash, I am not special. I just followed this blueprint over and over until my portfolio grew into something massive. But now that you understand what to look for when trying to invest in Section 8 homes, you need to actually learn my step-by-step system that will help you build a massive passive income portfolio through Section 8 rentals. So if you're ready to start buying cash flowing Section 8 properties immediately, check out this next video on screen where I'll show you what you'll learn, how to get started, and how to use this information to go from $0 to $1 million portfolio just like I did. As always, I am Joseph Khateri. Have a nice day.